the Chicago Bulls look to continue or build a possible win streak against the New York Knicks, what could be looked at as another revenge game of sorts for the Chicago Bulls, who just last week lost 2 games in a row at home to the New York Knicks. Will the Bulls respond with their continued team play? Will they default back to isolation ball if it gets hard for them against a team that matches up against them pretty nicely? On top of that, DeMar DeRozan has now gave his thoughts on the rumored trade that he would possibly request in this upcoming offseason. We're going to talk about all that plus more on today's Chicago Bulls Central.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
All right, Bulls fans. So we know our Bulls have put together 2 nice wins, right? Now, again, not to write too much about it or not to make too much of it. They've beaten 2 teams that they match up pretty well against. Now, one of those wins against the Atlanta Hawks came on a last-minute bucket by Ayo Dosunmu. And, while Bulls fans, rightfully so, have been cheering the play of Ayo, right? And just the play of the Chicago Bulls as well, going to Vooch a little bit more down low, even though they got away from that a little bit in that Atlanta Hawks game. But just seeing the team confidence start building, seeing the team play better as a team, seeing Zach LaVine seemingly respond to the criticism thrown his way by fans, pundits, and his own teammates. Now, so with that outlook on things, the Chicago Bulls could look to string together a nice little win streak leading into the Christmas break, which they only have 1 day Christmas break. We play the day after Christmas, which we play the Houston Rockets. But we have some tough tests coming up after that. Going into basically from the end of December, going into January, the first week and a half of January is not easy at all for the Chicago Bulls. They want to try to build some momentum as much as they can, because I'll tell you what, it becomes a murderer's row in a way for the Chicago Bulls coming up. December 28th, we have Milwaukee. Then we got Detroit, which, okay, Detroit, young team, but a beatable team at that. Then we have 2 games, a home and home against the Cleveland Cavaliers to end and begin the new year. Then we got Brooklyn, who was playing their best basketball probably in 2 years. Then we got Philly, a team that has always, as long as Joel Embiid is on the court, dominated us. Then we got Utah, another tough matchup. Then we got Boston. Then we got the Washington Wizards. The schedule for the Bulls does not get easy. Even though we have the easiest schedule, or the second easiest schedule from here until the end of the season, this is probably our toughest stretch left in the season to end December and begin the new year with. The Chicago Bulls need, not just want, they need to figure out a style of play. They need to build as much chemistry and continuity as they can before heading into that streak, because I tell you what, it can get really ugly really quick for the Chicago Bulls. Now, around this time last year, we were about in the middle of what became a 9-game winning streak for the Chicago Bulls, a time where Bulls fans were happy, excited about the team, excited about the future. We were the number 1 team in the East, and then things came crashing down shortly thereafter that. Could the opposite be true for the Chicago Bulls this year? Could they build or start off the season so-so and build some continuity and chemistry and momentum into where they end the season much stronger than what they ended it last year? Well, that remains to be seen. But the matchup that we have tonight is against the New York Knicks, and that is an important matchup for a few different reasons. Not only, as I said in the opening, is that another revenge game for the Chicago Bulls. That's a team that was prepared to go on an 8-game winning streak before they lost last night. So it's going to be really interesting just to see how the coaching staff, the Bulls, how they play, how they bond together. For a team like, and I've said last night, but they lost against Toronto Wednesday night. So both teams are coming in fresh legs, things like that. This New York Knicks team is not a team to be taken lightly. This New York Knicks team is not a team to just assume is that we match up well against. They're 18-14 on the season. By God, how would Bulls fans love to be 18-14 so far on this season if we were able to do that? So the Chicago Bulls have to lock in. They have to continue playing in a way of spreading the ball. Not necessarily saying that the key is playing through Vooch in every single game, but you do need to attempt it and then see if it's going to be successful, because as I've said, Nikola Vucevic probably is the best basketball IQ player that we have in the starting lineup right now, especially while Lonzo Ball is down. The decisions he makes with the ball, the passes that he makes when he's operating down low, how he's able to get buckets, it's not going to be easy for him either against Mitchell Robinson. Now, Nikola Vucevic for his career averages 22 and almost 11 and 4 against Mitchell Robinson. But last game was not indicative of that. Matter of fact, our last couple of games against the New York Knicks have not been indicative of that. Can Nikola Vucevic have the game that we need him to do? Can Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan continue their overall positive play, right? Especially shooting the ball, but also getting other players involved in the game as well, getting assists, building that continuity, building that chemistry. Can they continue to do that? Or when this Bulls team faces a little adversity, are we going to be the team that defaults back to heavy isolation ball that has just not been as successful this season as what it's been last season? This Chicago Bulls team has done nothing really to garner any type of positive expectations from this team, at least not consistently. But as this team looks to maybe try to figure it out, looks maybe to get out this rut, I know a lot of Bulls fans continue to make that comparison. Can we be the Boston Celtics of last year? Can we be a team that is so much better in the second half of the season than what we were at the first? Well, that answer, hopefully we're going to see it. And as I said kind of at the start of the season, the Bulls have such a tough row of games to begin the new year that really could be what makes or breaks the season. I fall back so much this season about the thought from a lot of Bulls fans that it's all over, because it's not all over yet. But if the Bulls in that stretch that I mentioned earlier, if they come out and they lose most of those games, that could be the nail in the coffin of a team leading into the All-Star break and the trade deadline for a team that a lot of people are asking and wondering, is this team going to blow it up? Is this team going to retool? Is this team going to rebuild? Now, one of the rumors that we got out about that and I talked about yesterday was a report that came out from Sean Devine that DeMar DeRozan could possibly ask for a trade. DeMar responded to that greatly with using the clip from Training Day in which he just talks about you can't believe newspapers. And I love that DeMar at least did that. You don't need to put your actual voice behind it because it's rumors. And as I've been trying to tell you guys, that there's not always enough to believe in some of those rumors when it comes to basketball or sports in general. Sometimes writers are just looking, and I'm glad that DeMar did say that. But the question still does remain, and that I don't know if we're going to get a firm, I don't even know if we're going to get an answer to at all this season, right? Because while the Bulls, maybe they are lucky enough, maybe they play well enough to where they can turn it around. Maybe that does happen. And if they do, shout out to them. I would love to see. You love to see, right? As the young people say. But the fact of the matter is that even no matter how this season ends for the Chicago Bulls, it doesn't mean that in the offseason, they may not look to do a lot at the trade deadline. As I've been trying to prepare you guys for that major trade that some of us hope for in Bulls Nation, that some of us wish for, that some of us want this team to make, that those trades may not be likely to come. It remains to be seen, right? Not saying that it won't, but the offseason is a different story. The offseason is a completely different story, especially giving time for AK and Eversley to really evaluate this. The Nikola Vucevic extension that was rumored at the beginning of the training camp did not happen. The team got off to struggling. It has not happened. Could they be looking to leave the door open to use that? Again, are you going to risk losing Vooch for nothing in free agency? Are you going to then sign Nikola Vucevic in free agency again so then you don't lose an asset for nothing? Possibly upsetting the Chicago Bulls fan base if you don't do other improvements to this team? The question with this team that still remains is that, is this team more than likely to retool or rebuild? And how successful could they be in doing that? And what assets, what targets could they have if they do look to retool? I, for one, have fought against the complete rebuild mindset, especially this season as the Bulls don't own their own first-round pick outright. It's top 4 protected. And so the Bulls have already kind of won too many games to really get into that sweepstakes heavily. And so, therefore, it would be a lot of hope and wishing for the Bulls to end up getting a top 4 pick and be able to hold on to their own first-round pick. I don't necessarily see them doing that. Could be wrong. Not saying I have all the answers here, because I don't. Again, I'm not Sean Devine. I don't try to act like I have the answers. But with that being said, is this Bulls team, is a retool or rebuild better? That is the question on every Chicago Bulls fan mouth right now. What are they likely to do? We argue about it, not we as in me and you, but a lot of Bulls fans, you see that debate happening in social media. You see the debate happening in message boards and forums. Is that, what is the correct answer for this team? Is it a rebuild? Is it a retool? I lean more towards the retool aspect of it more than rebuild, and that may just be the way I look at it. When I think rebuild, I think trade everyone, be as bad as possible that you can for so long and hope that you're going to draft the next star. I don't think that this front office is likely to do that. Looking at the talent that they do have on this team, I think a retool is more than likely. And then, they own their own first round pick in 2024. I've already told you guys, 2024 draft could be that first draft that allows high school players to come back in. At that point, it would be a double draft. That draft could be filled with talent, and AK and Eversley could absolutely be looking towards that to say that is by the time we need to make our decision on what this roster is going to look like. Because if you can get multiple first round picks in that draft, that could be what completely changes the outlook of your franchise. Again, that's if they decide to go that route. Free agents, there's a new CBA coming. The salary cap is going to increase. There's a new TV deal also on the precipice. The salary cap is going to increase that point even furthermore. The hard cap, which could be coming as well for the NBA, could make spending a lot more easy for teams across the league. It could make some of those upcoming free agents kind of have to go other places. There's a lot of different avenues and routes that this Chicago Bulls team can go. And while I know many of us have our desired route that we want to see this team go, be prepared for it to not go necessarily that route that you may want. But the fact of the matter remains, AK and Eversley have to do something with this team. Changes are needed with this team. If it's not a rebuild, it's a retool. Something needs to happen. The unbalance on this roster has caught up with the Bulls in a lot of ways. Now, the Bulls are good enough. They have enough talent, and when they play with heart and determination, they could win a lot of games. But the fact of the matter remains is that what is this team going to be? Is this going to be a team that just hovers around playoff, maybe between the play-in and the 7th seed for the next God knows how many years? Or are AK and Eversley going to actually make their move in the next 18 months to make a clear direction on what could get this team to be on that championship level that so many of us want to see this team be on and that we deserve as a Bulls fan? AK set that precedent when he said that this city, this franchise deserves to be in championship contention. He said that. So your words got to match your actions. As I've been saying with this team for so long, you got to show me. You got to show us, right? Bulls Nation deserves to see it. We listen, the lip service is cool. All right, I appreciate you for doing that, but it only gets you so far for a franchise that wants to see excellence from this team. A franchise that, a fan base, I should say, that respects playing with heart more than anything. And when you don't see that in this team, you're going to leave a lot of people frustrated and desiring so much more. We need to see heart. We need to see success. We deserve to see it. As Bulls Nation, we deserve to see it. So let's see if we end up getting it, because we deserve it. And I know that some people could say that sounds like a sense of entitlement, but no, fuck that. Excuse my French. We deserve to see it. We spent too long dealing with the Garpax era. We spent too long dealing with the Baby Bulls era. We spent too long dealing with eras that went up and down. And the biggest sign of hope that we had came by luckily getting a number 1 overall pick and the young man from Chicago in Derrick Rose, who put the franchise and the city on his back and made us believe again. We deserve to have that feeling. That feeling deserves to be restored in this Bulls fan base. And so whenever we get there, whenever we get to that point, it has to be sooner rather than later, because I tell you what, AK and Eversley, you guys came in with great energy. It came in with "In Acme we trust." But soon it's going to be "In Acme we bust" if shit does not change for this franchise in a considerable fashion in the next handful of years. Not saying that it has to happen next season, not saying that we need to be a championship team in the next 2 years, but we need to start seeing a clear path to being that. Because I tell you what, the up and down roller coaster that has been being a Chicago Bulls fan for the last decade, we deserve so much more than that. And getting rid of Gar Forman and John Paxson was, we thought, the first sign of getting off that roller coaster. We got off one roller coaster, got on to another. And some would say that being a sports fan in general is a roller coaster ride, and you would be accurate in that. But something needs to happen with this team, and they need to pick a path. Are you going to develop the young guys? Do you have the young guys on this roster that could develop into stars that can push you to that level? Are you going to go out and acquire that star? Are you going to go out and draft that next star? What are you going to do? Now, I know that became a whole passionate rant that I didn't even plan on saying most of that. That just came out my mind. That's how much I love this team. That's how much I love this franchise. That's how much I live, breathe, and I wouldn't say die necessarily. I die for my family. But you guys know my saying. It's God, family, and the Chicago Bulls. And Bears. But that's for a different show. But that's what it is for me. and I need to see that development. I need to see that growth. We deserve it as a fan base. And so, to get back on track here, bring it all back. The Chicago Bulls need to win tonight against the New York Knicks. Now, again, if they do lose and play with heart, you can't win them all. That's that. We need to have a better showing than what we showed at home. You are playing in what many people hold to be the mecca of basketball in Madison Square Garden. The big lights are on. No, we're not nationally televised, but how is this team going to play? Are they going to continue play with that heart that we've seen? Yes, we're missing pieces. Is that heart going to show and display itself for the Chicago Bulls tonight? We need to see it. We deserve to see it. Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Nikola Vucevic. We need these players to step up. But we also need contributions from Ayo, Patrick Williams, Dragic if he plays, Andre Drummond, the rookie Dalen Terry if he continues to get some tick. We deserve to see all of it. Let me know what you guys think on everything down below. Make sure you're following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. And like I like to end every episode, especially on game day, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red. And peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.